Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our webinar this afternoon. I'm Alex Radford. I'm an English solicitor and Spanish lawyer. And today I'm joined by my colleagues, Chari Rodriguez, who's based up there in the Costa Blanca in our Ciudad Quesada office. And Laura's joining us from home in Torrevieja. So hello, Laura. Thanks for coming on board. And today, we are talking about the Costa Blanca and what the market's doing, prices, and there'll be some top tips from estate agents there. And we're really glad to see that we've got Paul and Cameron on the line. Paul joins us from Masa and Cameron joins us from 5 Real Estate. Hi there, Paul and Cameron.
Hello, Alex.
Hi there.
Thanks for the invite.
Hey, thanks for joining us. And before we kind of get into the nitty-gritty and talking about the market, Paul, can you just talk to us about Masa and yourself and your relationship with the Costa Blanca and how long you've been in the market and what areas you cover, please?
Yeah, sure. So Masa International, we're a real estate company based on the Costa Blanca in Spain since 1981. So we're at our 41st anniversary this year. And we go as far as Denia in the northern Costa Blanca, which is a bit south of Valencia, all the way down to Alicante, and out the other side to the southern Costa Blanca, and also into the Murcia and Mar Menor region. And essentially, we help people to move to Spain or find a second home in Spain, and we sell new and resale properties across that region. I myself am the sales and marketing director for the company, and I'm based between the UK and Spain, assisting clients both at the UK end, which despite my misleading background, I'm currently in the UK. And I've worked for the company for, I think it's 27 years this year. So this is all I've done is help people find their place in Spain.
Excellent. So quite some years there. So and in effect, Costa Blanca and Murcia area. So
yeah,
so both there. Yeah. Cameron, over to you. Same questions.
Thank you, Alex. So part of 5 Real Estate, I'm one of the partners there. We're a relatively embryonic business, more so in comparison to Paul there. But we've been on the Costa Blanca for 3.5 years. Our first office opened in the Los Dulces Villa Martin area, and we've expanded to 7 branches now as far north as Javea. We do cover slightly north than that branch to Denia, similar to Paul and into Oliva. We are predominantly a resale business. We probably 80% of our business is the sale of resale properties. We do touch on new build properties, but the primary focus is resales as we sit here today. We go down to south as far as San Pedro del Pinatar in Murcia, and we do have agents on the ground in other areas of Murcia as well, like the golf resorts. We focus a lot of attention on as well. My role in the business, predominantly sort of day-to-day, hands-on. I find myself traveling up and down the coast quite a lot to different offices, but also look after our marketing side of things as well as our website and international property portals, etc. So I have a mixtured role, a varied role, but yeah, lots of hands-on work.
Excellent. So yeah, sounds great. So we've got two fantastic agencies based in the Costa Blanca, with varying experience and a lot of knowledge to share with us today. So let's get straight into it. I mean, 2020 was a real funny old year, what with COVID and all those lockdowns. How did 2021 compare to 2020? Paul, should we start with you on that one?
Yeah, sure. So good question. So I guess the answer was it was very stop-start, where there was travel restrictions and then they kind of lifted, and the minute travel restrictions lifted, people were sort of bombing over to Spain to find properties. But really, the catch-up was in the second half of last year. So from sort of summertime right the way through to the end of the year was a really tremendous year for sales and people coming over to buy. So there was a lot of pent-up demand where people were sort of locked up at home, coming up with new ideas of what they wanted to do with their lives, and people bringing plans forward. So it was a rather condensed year. So instead of it being even across the year, it was like a whole year or almost 2 years worth of sales just in the last few months of the year. So and early indications are that that's going to continue into this year, perhaps at an even higher rate.
Excellent. Cameron?
Yeah, to be honest, we saw a similar pattern ourselves. Start of 2021, there was a lot of uncertainty, especially with what was going on globally and the travel restrictions that were in place. And the second half of last year, certainly we saw a huge volume in clients over in Spain, who, with the ease of travel restrictions, enabled them to get over here, but also that coupled with high volumes of sales, as also Paul mentioned. We started the year with 3 branches, predominantly 2 in the south, Costa Blanca, and 1 in the north. And last year we managed to open 4 new branches as well. So it just goes to show that actually the sales volumes that we saw definitely encouraged us to be pushing forward. It gave us the confidence in the market. So we finished the year with 7 branches, which enabled us to cover a lot more of the Costa Blanca than we previously did the year before. And the new branches helped us to increase sales dramatically. I mean, year on year, we increased by 200% from 2020 to 2021, which was fantastic. And we had record months for sales. I mean, November for us as a business was the best sales month we've had to date. And that falls in line with the general Spanish data that's been released on sales volumes for last year, as well as lots of new properties coming on the market for us, lots of new directly listed resale properties, which enabled us to give buyers a greater choice.
Excellent, excellent.
And guys, where are the property hotspots on the Costa Blanca area? Yeah,
hotspots for us. I mean, we started the business 3.5 years ago, predominantly in the South Costa Blanca. We've subsequently, as I mentioned, expanded throughout the whole of the Costa Blanca. But if I look at the South Costa Blanca as an entity, there's high volumes of sales transactions in the South Costa Blanca in comparison to less volume in the north, but higher value sales. So there's quite a difference in the models there between the South and the North Costa Blanca. But what I would say from our experience, the couple of areas in the South Costa Blanca, or certainly Quesada, Ciudad Quesada, obviously, where you're having your new office, Alex, where we've also got an office ourselves, is a very active market for us. There's lots and lots of transactions going on, and certainly a lot of clientele that actually are the right demographic for us as a business. And also Los Dulces Villa Martin area. I mean, we've got a well-established business there because that's where our first branch was. Again, lots of clientele that actually fit into our demographic and high volumes of sales. If I look at the north, again, relatively new in the north, but our operations in Javea, where we've got an office, is proving to be a big success. Again, there's less volume of sales, but certainly a higher transaction in terms of the values of the property. So there's a bit of a difference, but these areas certainly for us tick the boxes of hotspots.
Excellent.
I'd share a really similar pattern to be fair. Quesada has really stood out as an area where people have been heading to. I think it ticks a lot of boxes for people who either want to live there full time or have a second home. Really good range of properties, from sort of lower value properties right up to extensive luxury villas. The classic areas of Villa Martin, the Orihuela Costa, we call that collectively, which makes up Cabo Roy, Glazenia, and Punta Prima. Those areas are consistently popular, but Quesada certainly stood out, and perhaps to a lesser degree the San Pedro area as well, where the Mar Menor is starting, where there are lots of new properties being built there as well. So clients looking for beach properties and such. That's somewhere that's certainly on the up and is a trend that we're seeing. Not so much in the north. The demand has been for the southern Costa Blanca, although the area just behind Benidorm has really been taking off, which is the Sierra Cortina area. And that's become actually a popular destination, and we expect that to be playing a big part in the future for 2022. Importantly, in terms of what are people buying, there's been a definite shift in spending more. Those that perhaps would have bought a typical path for someone that may be thinking about retiring to Spain in the future is to buy a small property now, see how they go, upgrade in the future. And perhaps this is to some extent been brought on by the lockdown and such, but people seem to be skipping that stage and going straight into higher value properties and buying bigger villas. And that's because that market is well catered for in the Quesada area. I think that's played a part in why that's been the #1 destination for Brits as far as we're concerned, for sure.
Cameron, what are the prices doing across the Costa Blanca? Can you tell us?
Of course, thank you, Sherry. So from our point of view, obviously, as I mentioned, historically, we've been focused on resale properties. And over the long term, data certainly indicates that prices are on a slight upward trajectory. But from our point of view, we haven't seen any dramatic fluctuations either way, to be honest. Over the shorter term, if we look back in 2020, the pandemic caused a drop in pricing, obviously due to the reduced demand with the travel restrictions and concerns over health and COVID being the concern at that point in time. But as restrictions eased last year, we mentioned the demand was on the rise, people were out in Spain, and prices started to recover to pre-pandemic levels. I mean, on average, I would suggest that we are seeing 90+% of asking price, which is a pretty constant figure for us, to be honest, which confirms, properties are priced according to the market. But as a business, our average sale price actually increased from 2020 to 2021. But I must say that was in line with our expansion into the North Costa Blanca, where property prices are significantly higher. Regarding new homes, I appreciate Paul will probably be able to touch base on this more so, but we've seen with the increase in inflation, it's caused the cost of raw materials to go up quite a bit. So building materials, for example, has become more expensive, as well as the rise in labour costs. And this has actually pushed the price from what we have seen of new homes up. And moving forward, as perhaps inflation increases further, interest rates increase, we're yet to see what will happen and how that may impact the resale market.
I would concur with that, yeah. Certainly as far as new properties go, building costs, and plus because there's been so many people buying, the key ready stock of new properties is very, very low now. So there's a very limited number of new properties that you can move straight into. So lots of new developments starting, but as the builders buy land to start new projects, they're paying not only more for their materials, but they're paying more for the land as well, because the market is on a very sharp upward trajectory. So that's reflected in the cost. So yes, we have seen some definite increase in property prices. So that's born out of demand, land costs, and raw materials. So that has created a little gap between the new and the resale properties, I would say. From our point of view, we sell more new than we do resale. I think we're probably the mirror image of Cameron and Five, where you sell perhaps more resale properties. Our clients are looking for modern homes, and there's a limited number of those on the resale market as well. So I tend to look at it that 90% of the buyers are chasing 10% of what's actually on the market. So it's, you know, good properties are selling very quickly.
And Paul, what is the nationality of the buyers at the moment?
The Brits are really strong at the moment. I mean, we have offices all over all the cold bits of Europe. So we sell to Scandinavians, Belgians, Dutch, Eastern Europeans. But over the last few months, the Brits really have, from our point of view, become the #1 buyers on the Costa Blanca. Traditionally, if you took a snap, if you looked at over, say, the last 5 or 6 years, Belgium's big buyer of properties on the Costa Blanca, they've really taken hold of the market. And the Scandinavians are always buying. There's always lots of Scandinavians buying. But yeah, the Brits have really taken to the front of the market at the moment.
Cameron, would you kind of concur with that?
Yeah, absolutely. From our point of view, our strongest buyer nationality has always been British. We've got a core base of British buyers, and you know, I don't envisage that to change. We see a lot of inquiries coming through that are predominantly British, although we have seen an increase in other European buyers. So we've certainly seen an increase in German buyers and French buyers, as well as Scandinavian buyers. I think there has been a slight, if you look at some of the data that's been reported, I do think there has been a slight drop off in British buyers in general, and I think that has to do with the Brexit impact and non-resident buyers. If you look at the increase in required income levels, health insurance, whether you can only stay 90 days out of 180, etc. People are still trying to circumnavigate those new boundaries that have been put into place, and I think that's hopefully a short-lived dip from the British side. I'm certainly seeing some strong numbers from our own personal point of view. And yeah, we think it's actually a really, really strong time, really good time for British buyers. If you look at January 2021, in terms of the currency exchange rate from British pound to euro, we were sitting around 113. And if you look today, we're at 119, just shy of 120. So in terms of that, there's a 6% increase in the strength of the pound. And that coupled with historically low interest rates, it basically means that Spanish property for the British is becoming more affordable at this present moment today. So yeah, we're feeling very confident with Brits, and also into, as I mentioned, German, French, and some Scandinavians as well.
And Paul, what advice would you give to buyers and sellers on how to approach the market?
Okay, so from a buyer's point of view, it's come prepared with what your brief is. Have some clear boundaries. I mean, obviously, be open-minded in terms of what you can expect to see when you come to Spain, but work out your finances, work out what is a comfortable price range to work with. As far as buying new properties go, it's quite limited on what you can do with price because the market's going up. The builders are not really looking to reduce prices at all at the moment. However, if you are coming into the market, I would say in the early part of this year, and you can find some key ready properties, there are some deals to be had there in terms of usually what's included. Maybe the builders will include some furniture or some extras there rather than reduce the price. As far as resale properties go, there's usually something that you can negotiate off the price. Don't expect fortunes because sellers know it's a good market as well. But there's usually something that can be worked on with the price. Most importantly, I think Cameron just touched on that, is your currency. You know, get that sorted and take advantage of the really strong pound at the moment, or relatively strong to what we've experienced over the last few years, because that's, as Cameron said, you're talking about 6-7% saving on before you even start, versus if you were buying a year ago. So get your currency prepared, get your brief worked out, what's important to you, and head over when you're in the market. Don't forget that the completion time for a property in Spain is very quick, you know, versus the UK. In the UK, when you put an offer in on a house, you know, you're talking 12 weeks if you move very quickly. In Spain, 4 to 6 weeks is a kind of natural completion for a property that's existing and ready to move into. So make sure your ducks are in a row before you really head out to Spain to start making offers on properties. And certainly, I think if you're here in the early part of the year, there are still going to be some bargains to be had. But bear in mind, those prices are going up. So if I was offering any advice, it would be to try and head out as soon as you can, because now these restrictions have lifted and less requirements for testing or quarantine and this type of situation. That's a big incentive for buyers to come. So try and get ahead of the crowd and get involved in the market as soon as you can.
Yeah, so I think from a seller's point of view, very much similar to Paul. I mean, I can speak more so on a resale basis, but we always say to our sellers, our vendors, that there's really only two things that they can influence, and that is price and presentation. Unfortunately, a property can't be picked up, if you like, and moved closer to a beach or bars or restaurants, but certainly the price they can influence, and how the property is presented. So preferably, you know, in a nice way and uncluttered, for example. So the price certainly will help get people through the door for viewings, etc. And the presentation, you know, could impact a buyer's decision making. Certainly, we've seen in the past. So those two things for sellers we always mention. In terms of the searching, a buyer's search process and mentality, we've seen that on the portals you have bandings, for example, up to 100 grand, 100 to 150, 150 to 200, and so on. If you're looking to price your property to fall into a band, I would suggest if it's 100 grand, you would do 99,999, for example. The reason being is it opens you up to much more buyers who are searching in that band. The higher you go up in price banding, naturally there's less people available in the market in those buyers available in those higher bandings. So you want to keep it into a banding which is going to be searched a lot more than perhaps one higher. Also, market with proactive estate agents. I'm sure Paul, like ourselves, we advertise on many of the top property portals as well. So make sure you are working with an agent that's going to actually take time to market your property effectively, as well as share your property amongst their database as well. For the buyers, I think, again, similar to Paul, make sure you do your research is first and foremost, especially when it comes to pricing. So make sure you compare pricing with properties in the area, just to understand for your own benefit. Watch out for changes in taxes. So you'll be fully aware, Alex, obviously this year, the property transfer tax, big change to that. So just make sure you're up to date with all the changes in the taxing or associated buying costs, because that can obviously impact how much you're able to offer on a property. And in terms of, I mentioned before, buyers look at the currency. Paul mentioned as well, it's certainly stronger now than it was, especially for the Brits 1 year ago. So that is in your favour. And I guess let's not forget why we choose Spain. I guess for buyers, you know, healthy Mediterranean lifestyle, Spanish sun, and cheaper cost of living. So these are all things, you know, are positive for Spain. And I think, you know, with Spain and the UK coming out of COVID, it's looking very good for a boy in 2022.
Excellent, excellent. Thanks, Paul and Cameron. So, I mean, just a few takeaways from that, and just some advice to add, to add to buyers. Yeah, if you're looking at buying property in the Costa Blanca, so a brand new property, you're going to pay VAT at 10% and stamp duty at 1.5%, and for a resale property, you pay transfer tax at 10%. So, by and large, if you allow up to 14% for a brand new property on top of the purchase price, you've got enough costs to cover that, and resale property, I'd say up to 13%. And if you are going to apply for a mortgage, a Spanish mortgage, I'd certainly suggest that you speak to an independent mortgage broker beforehand. So again, send them all your documentation, obtain some information from them about how much you could borrow, and how much you could actually, how much you've got to add on top of the deposits, etc., to how much you can afford when it comes to the property purchase. So just to give you an example, if you said the purchase cost of 14% on a brand new property, then you've typically a Spanish lender for non-residents will lend anywhere between 60 and 75%. So talk to them, the lenders beforehand. But if they lend you 60%, then you've got to put in 40% deposit, and then you'll need that 14% costs. So you need a good healthy deposit of 54%, which is quite a lot. So that's why I think it's really important, as Paul and Cameron mentioned, do your research. In previous kind of seminars, we've talked about, rather than going, homing in on the property, find out the area you like first. So visit that area at different times of the year, because sometimes areas can quieten down quite a lot in the winter. Some people want that. Some people don't. And also, of course, the summer, because some of the summer months can be incredibly busy. So visit the house and area at different times of the year to see what's in store. Cameron touched on it. Yes, the impact of Brexit means that British people coming to Spain can only spend 90 days in 180 days. If they wish to become a resident and move permanently to Spain, then they can do so by applying for either a non-lucrative visa or a golden visa. A golden visa means that someone has to buy a property for 500,000 euros plus or more in their own name without any mortgages on that, and that would allow them to live and work in Spain. The non-lucrative visa means they can live in Spain, they don't have to buy a property 500,000, but they wouldn't be able to work. So the gold visa, you would be able to work. So if you are planning a move to Spain, certainly have a look at our website, and we've got some leaflets there about the buying process and, of course, the selling process. And contact Five Real Estate and Paul at Masa. Talk to them about your move, the type of properties you're looking at, and really, the takeaways from this is that the market is strong. If you're buying from a developer, you're probably not going to get much off the price, but you might get a few extras in. And on the resale side, depending on why the seller's selling, how long it's been on the market for, and how well it's presented, you may or may not get a lot off the purchase price. So I think a few years back, house prices were kind of probably out of sync a little bit with the market. I think that's probably narrowed quite a lot since then, because we're not seeing. I think you mentioned it, Cameron. Paul, basically, we are seeing a lot of sellers achieving their asking price, which is a change in circumstance. So what would you say, Paul, Cameron? Is it a buyer's market at the moment, or is it a seller's market?
I'd say it's quite well balanced, really. It's there are with resale properties. I think sellers are always and they always will do, regardless of the market. There's always even a bit of built-in anticipation of an offer, albeit perhaps the kind of offers being taken are smaller now than they were at other times in history. So I'd say it's fairly balanced. From our point of view, we don't want to see prices going through the roof, and it becomes a short-term bun fight, which ultimately usually causes problems further down the line. But it's a nice market. There's plenty of buyers. Sellers are are generally happy as well, because, you know, good properties presented well at the right price will sell. Prices are going up steadily, so it gives confidence in the market that if you're buying a property, you know, you shouldn't be losing money on it. Don't come to Spain to buy a property to make money, though. Come to Spain because you want to be in Spain and you want to have the sunshine and the lifestyle. That always must be the reason for buying. Yes, you can buy and get good rental income in some areas, but really come to Spain because you want that lifestyle.
Excellent. Cameron, any further comments?
No, I completely agree with Paul. I mean, we sort of slightly saw a transition after the pandemic, with the prices dropping due to the less demand naturally in the market with less travel. And I think tail end of last year, certainly Q3, Q4 of last year, we certainly saw the volumes of transactions skyrocket, really, from our personal point of view. And this, of course, evened things out in terms of what we first saw straight after the lockdowns and so, or during the lockdowns, for example. So, yeah, I think if we're looking at it, I think there's a nice balance, as Paul mentioned. We certainly see properties that are priced well and priced according to the market, as well as presented well, will sell from our point of view. We see this each month. We take properties on and we instantly can see that this is a property that's going to gain a lot of interest, and it does sort of 10 times out of 10, and we see that this has lots of viewings and eventually will sell pretty quick. The ones that perhaps aren't priced according to the market, or perhaps aren't presented the best, we have seen generally will take longer to sell. But yeah, on balance, I think we are seeing a market which is pretty positive all round, to be honest.
Excellent. Okay, so from final comments, Paul, challenges for 2022. What do you see?
We just hope that there's no more travel restrictions, really. I'd say that's the biggest challenge. So that's what we're all keeping our fingers crossed, that people can come and go to Spain as they please, that the pound remains strong. The other challenges will be, you know, the demand for modern homes on the Costa Blanca, that we don't have such long completion times because the demand outstrips the supply. So we like to have a nice stock of new properties that people can move straight into, but that pool is forever shrinking at the moment as buyers buy more than they build. So we hope we can always have a nice stock of properties that people can move straight into, because after all, if we've been locked down for this time and not been able to do all the things we want to do, once a buyer makes a decision that they want to be in Spain, they usually want to be in Spain yesterday, not in 12 months time. So that's my hopes for the 2022, and let's see how that works out.
Cameron, any challenges you see on the horizon?
Well, on a positive note, obviously the announcement recently from the UK in terms of the easing of restrictions and easing on travel restrictions as well, and the February 11th, I believe, we're going to see no more day 2 testing for fully vaccinated people. So we envisage that travel is going to pick up again. We've already, I was reading as an example, Jet2 travel company put out a statement saying they saw a 30% increase in bookings the week following this announcement from the UK, and others reporting that demand for Spain is skyrocketing. So yeah, we're really feeling confident for 2022. You know, as Paul said, we keep our fingers crossed that there's no other problems or sort of macroeconomics that take things out of our hand, but we're confident. We're currently, as a business, negotiating a new premises in the north, Costa Blanca, so we're expanding, and we don't want to stop there. So we want to continue growing and essentially offering more properties for the sellers, for the buyers, sorry, offering more choice. One aspect which, you know, we mentioned before that might be a challenge is obviously the price rises through inflation, so the costs of raw materials increasing. New build certainly increasing in price, but we're yet to see how that might impact the resale market. But overall, Alex, very positive, looking forward to the year.
Excellent, excellent. That's a real positive to end on. I'd like to thank everyone for attending today and listening in. We've got a lot more interesting videos on our YouTube channel, tips about buying, selling, ownership options. Please do visit those other videos. Chari, Laura, and I look forward to seeing as many of you as possible on the Costa Blanca soon in our new Ciudad Quesada office. And thank you very much once again. Have a nice afternoon.